In today's video, it's everything rolling pins. I'm actually going to share with you one way to upcycle those rolling pins. My focus today is really how to style those rolling pins in your kitchen or if you're a booth owner. I'm Kathy with Waste.Not.Upcycled. I'm a full-time teacher and a part-time reseller and upcycler. Let's go get started. Whenever I'm out thrifting, I am sure to grab those rolling pins. So today I'm going to be upcycling these rolling pins, all kind of the same style in a batch, except for this one, and there's another one that I do not want to touch. I want to keep it exactly as is. To start out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a bunch of different paints and I'm going to paint up those handles of all of the rolling pins. While they dry, I'm going to go ahead and share with you how to style them. For the first project, instead of sanding, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use Raytheon Junk, the prep. Now basically all you need to do is spritz it onto your project, wipe it down with a cloth, and it's good to go and the paint will stick. To paint this project, I'm going to use Fusion paint. I believe I'm using Acadia Pear, and I'm going to paint the whole thing. As I was painting this, I decided I wanted to keep it very simple. So I was going to actually add on those grain sack towel lines, and I had created an actual stamper using a rolling pin. I'd used that in a previous video and I did it on fabric using permanent ink. So I was going to use permanent ink and then add it onto this. Now, this stamp was created perfectly imperfect. So those lines kind of like are broken up. So it has kind of that vintagey look to it. I'm going to go ahead and stamp this up and then I'm going to test it on paper to make sure it's going to work okay. Yep, that was the look I was going for. So I'm going to go ahead, restamp it a little bit, and then I am going to run it just across the sides, the top, just one time. Now it had that look I was going for, and in hindsight, I should have just kind of sanded it in different places, kind of made it look a little bit rough. But if I could take this video and put it back into my video that I titled Pivot, where I had to completely pivot, that's what goes on here. I completely had to pivot. So I go ahead and stamp everything on. After stamping everything on, I went back in and for some crazy reason, I thought I was going to paint it in blue, and I went to take it off and it completely stripped the paint. So then I'm like, well, let me go ahead and let me try that with all of it and see how all the stripes look with kind of a sanded area in the middle and paint on the edge. And it was just not happening at this point. This was turning into an absolute hot mess, and I was not happy with it. Plus, I was out of Acadia Pear, the green paint, so I couldn't do anything about it. So I went back to the drawing board and started sanding all of that off. And as I was sanding it, I got a new idea. Instead of completely sanding it down, I sanded it in different patches, and I liked how it was starting to look, but I had thought about putting a second layer over the top of it. So I go ahead and wipe this down, and then I go into my paint and I find an old acrylic, kind of a greenish paint that I wanted to layer. And I loved the way these two colors went together. And I also wanted to leave some of that wood popping through. So I'm going to go through horizontal and then I go back and paint. I want my lines all different directions. Now I've pivoted and I kind of want that shabby look. As I'm painting this on, I realized that that was definitely not Acacia pear. I don't even remember what color I put down in the first place, to be honest with you, but it has more of a bluish look to it, and I love the way the bluish green and that green really work together. I'm actually glad that I pivoted. I really like how this looks. So let's chat a little bit about those rolling pin holders. In reality, this is actually a wine holder. So I want to encourage you when you go into thrift stores to kind of change your perspective and look at those wine holders in a whole different light. They are a perfect fit for rolling pins. And there are so many different style wine racks that you can use for different types of rolling pins. So I'm going to go ahead and finish painting this up, and then I'm going to put it on the side to dry, and I will be sharing this at the very end with rolling pins. Here's another wine rack that I had thrifted, and I'm going to be using Fusion Buttermilk paint because that's kind of my go-to this spring. So I am going to be painting all of this up, keeping it extremely simple, and I think it would be really cute to display all of those spring rolling pins. You'll notice later when I display the rack with the actual rolling pins that it has 2 going in one direction and then 2 going in the opposite direction, and it kind of goes back and forth. One of the nice things I like about this display is that those rolling pins are out in the open, so if you really want to show what the design is, this is the perfect fit. I'm not adding anything else to this, although transfers would be cute, but I really want the rolling pins to be the center of attention. Okay, speaking of rolling pins, let's get back to designing rolling pins. So today I'm actually just going to share one idea. I am going to take all of my decoupage and I'm going to be sorting it out, all of that old decoupage. So I have a lot of leftover, and this is a great project for leftover decoupage paper. So as I'm going through this, I'm sorting my paper into 2 different piles. I'm doing kind of an old vintagey look like stamped and print, and then I'm doing a springy pile with flowers and butterflies and stuff like that. This is one of my favorite projects to do with leftover decoupage paper. I absolutely love to collage it. So I'm going to go ahead, as I use each piece of paper, I'm going to spritz it first. That really helps it to, I'm not worried as much about wrinkle, but it helps to work with it. It just it makes it easier to kind of lay over that rolling pin. I am definitely working out those wrinkles if I see them, and typically what I do is as I lay it flat, I just go ahead and go over it with my finger to make sure that those wrinkles are out. But the style that I'm doing, if there's a wrinkle here or there, it is fine. I will embrace it because I'm going to be adding a second layer to this as well. As I lay down that decoupage, I'm also purposeful in making sure I leave a little bit of an edge around that rolling pin. I'll go back, as you'll see, and I'll be sanding that down. Now, as I mentioned, I'm just going to share one way to decorate a rolling pin or upcycle a rolling pin. There are so many different ways. In fact, I'm going to drop down below a link for Sandra, who's an amazing creator. She's with Midwest Charms, and she just recently did an upcycle rolling pins video that you do not want to miss. So definitely click down below. And if you yourself have already upcycled rolling pins and do it in a different style, I would love to hear how you do that. I've seen some fun ways with paint, transfers, paint inlays. What's your favorite way to decorate rolling pins? So I sold about a handful of these in the fall. And that's kind of why I decided to go ahead and do a batch of spring ones that will lead into the summer as well. So I'm going to wrap this one up. I'll let you watch a little bit more. And I actually made 6 additional ones to this. I love how these are turning out, but they're not done. I'm going to be adding a second layer to them. Okay, this is the one that I decided to do instead of like that spring look to it. I'm going to go ahead and add just like the browns and the dark browns and the stamps and the letters and just kind of a vintage look. It went well with the handles. I only ended up doing 2 rolling pins with this look. I kind of based it off the handles. I liked these handles, and then there was a red handle, one that had red handles that I did chippy white paint over, and I felt like those two went well with it. I'm not going to be adding a second layer, which is paint, to these. I'm keeping these as is, very simple. These were all finished. I let them dry overnight, and then I am ready to add that second layer. But before I do that, I need to go ahead and sand off all of the edges. Shameless little plug, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link down below to this finger sander. I actually bought myself a second one. I really love this. It just helps with control. Yes, you can use regular sandpaper as well, that will work. So basically, I'm just gonna go ahead and sand the edges. Now, because I am not wanting it to be perfect, I'm a little bit rougher, but what I recommend is that you work against the sandpaper and go slowly. I have taken the edges off of all of them. So it's time to paint these. I'm gonna be using some go-tos. I'm gonna use buttermilk, damask infusion, and then I had a green acrylic paint that I was going to be adding as well. I've already painted over this a little bit, but I'm going to continue just to show you how I do this. So basically, I take a little bit of paint and then I find kind of an area that either has like a line or it looks a little bit bare, and I paint a little patch, and then I actually make sure that I blend it completely. And I am going over the decoupage, and I do try to go over other paint as well. So I just want it to just have kind of a blended look. I'm also going to take that paint and layer over those edges as well. And I'm not going for perfection. It's going to kind of blend over the paper. A little bit is going to go on the sides, and I get a little bit on the rolling pin on purpose as well. But you'll notice that I do use a cloth to blend it. Sometimes I do my fingers as well. I really want it to have kind of that see-through look. I don't want the paint to stay exactly how I put it on. So I will constantly, go over it with a cloth. Like I said, once in a while, I'll do my finger as well. And I continued this same process with all of the rolling pins I created, except for those vintage ones that didn't have color. I wanted them to stay kind of muted. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and watch just a tiny bit more, and at the end, you'll see all of these come together. When I was finished with everything, I sealed it with Big Top by DIY. It's one of my favorites. Okay, it's time to talk about showcasing those rolling pins. I highly recommend baskets. Those long baskets are the best. Here's that wine rack. I love how the paint turned out. I'm always keeping my eye open for tall containers, as well as vintage buckets, galvanized steel, and crocks. And then when it comes to baskets, look for those hanging baskets. They're a wonderful way to display. I mentioned looking for those wine display racks. This is a great example. I didn't have to do anything to it. Just the black steel is perfect for the vintage ones. For this last display idea, I took an old vintage book holder and I painted it chippy white. This is a fun way to hold a group of rolling pins. So thanks for taking the time to watch today's video. I hope you walked away with a new idea for styling up those rolling pins. And the next time you go into the thrift store, I hope you change your perspective and think of how different things can be used to style up rolling pins. If you're not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. It'll just let you know when my next video comes out. And please be sure to leave some comments down below.